welcome connoisseurs of fine common cardboard to today's live stream and to this iteration of Let's Tune. How y'all doing today? Let me know how you're doing in the chat below. It's good to see you all. Thanks for joining us and or joining me today. You notice the stream was a little bit later today. I had work went a bit late and looked down at my watch and 1:30 became 5:30 and here we are. So I figured we'd keep trudging along, but today we've got a great live stream. This is a beloved deck, one that I think on Moxfield approaching 6,000 views, and one that I have foiled out in paper. And Murmuring Mystic, hashtag bird gang. Leave a little bird emojis in the bottom if you're a bird enjoyer. But this deck has not been replaced, but for me, it's not the deck that I play very much anymore. I'm looking at TPI. TPI is kind of where my heart is. I didn't realize I was a curiosity control or curiosity enjoyer, but it really caught my interest, and I think for a long time I'd been talking about Third Path Iconoclast, TPI, in almost hypotheticals. I've been saying, if we ever get a Murmuring Mystic that has red, I'm going to be really excited about that, and we did. And it was not just red, but it was like artifacts and like half the mana. But there's a couple of things that Third Path Iconoclast does struggle with, and one of those is flyers. It's something the deck doesn't have answers to outside of removal or Sigil of Sleep with a pinger combo, or just killing them first. And Third Path Iconoclast also has 1 toughness, which means that when somebody casts a sweeper, our TPI is going to die along with our creatures. So our engine is going to go away with the things that the engine makes. And that's often not the case with Murmuring Mystic because it's a 1/5. So it's a 1/5, it makes flyers. Flyers unlock a couple of other spells like Lofty Denial, Winged Words, Airborne Aid for the birds. And because they're blue, you also get Abjure. So there's a lot to be said for Murmuring Mystic as a control deck as opposed to Third Path Iconoclast, which I think wants to be a mid-range deck. I do talk about there being an aggro build out there somewhere, which is probably reasonable, but not my vibe. But the curiosity element of this game plan is one that kind of leans you towards mid-range because it's so powerful that you want to like resolve it and then take advantage of all those cards, as opposed to just getting enough cards to push through and end your enemy before they can respond. So we're going to go to the deck here in a moment, but I also want to do a quick shout out to all of the folks who do a wonderful job of keeping Clay and I engaged in this work, and that is our Patreon. So for the patrons out there, I want to thank you all for your contributions to making this project happen. So we've got Jerry, Zach, Scooby, Chris, Tristan, William, Paul, Corey, Derek, Devin, Ian, Bobby Fine, and Jin Shooting Star, and Noyark. So thank you all for your contributions and for making this happen. If you too want to join our Patreon and contribute as well, the way that you can do that is through patreon.com/common connoisseurs. And that is a great way to do that. So I'll pull that up on screen right here. Hey, we got Alex in the chat. What's up, dude? Good to see you. Yeah, so here we go. We've got anything from $2 a month to $10 a month. And then for the whales out there, we love you too. We've got some bougier levels here that promise you a little bit more. But we do aim to please. And this level right here does grant you quite a bit of stuff, including the interfaces that I am using right now with your name added in there. So, but without further ado here, I am just really stoked to talk about Murmuring Mystic again. I mean, this is like going back to the deep cuts. This is deep cuts here, folks. Murmuring Mystic is kind of one of the first, Pauper commander decks that I worked on. My first ever was Slimefoot the Stowaway. And this was before I knew of competitive. Sorry, just getting my clothes off here. I literally got back at like 6 o'clock, whipped up a little bit of dinner, polished it off as fast as I could so I could get here to you. Yeah, Alex says Tolerand Sky Summoner at home. Absolutely. Yeah. The funny thing is that Tolerand is just a 2/2, and Murmuring Mystic's a 1/5. So I feel like Murmuring Mystic in some ways is just like way more Chad, like way more Chad than Tolerant. Like Tolerant does make Drakes, but Drakes actually don't have any synergy other than with other Drakes because, you get to do, Distant Melody and Keep Watch and all that stuff. But birds get you a very special card, and that is Airborne Aid, which is our fourth copy of Distant Melody. We have Airborne Aid, Keep Watch, and of course our Distant Melody. So, yeah. So Murmuring Mystic, definitely feel like it has a bit more muscle to it in that way, even though the creatures are half the size. But we can't play Tolerance, so. But anyways, yeah, this is a deck that I kind of brought light to some time ago as just a mono blue control deck. And when everybody else is comboing, when everybody else was comboing, and you're just sitting there making birds slowly, the table has a hard time justifying like putting resources into you because they're much more concerned about the existential threats at the table. So what we're able to do is slowly grind, draw lots of cards, have lots of interaction up, and only interact when we absolutely must, while applying some pressure in the air with some evasive attackers. It's not concerned with winning quickly. Decks that want to kill it quickly can be a bit of an issue. So I think, one of the places where Third Path Iconoclast really has been maybe a better approach to the current meta, which has some aggression in it, is that Third Path Iconoclast comes down before most of those very threatening decks do, and it starts making bodies before they can even start applying pressure. And those are great blockers. They can be attackers too. It's great in the initiative meta. If we want to go get it, we can throw some attackers at somebody and get a lot of that. And Murmuring Mystic is twice the cost. So there's that. But if you're in a heavy blue meta, man, those 16 counter spells, your 16 removal spells here, with all of these insane draw mechanics here, are really strong. And the reason we're revisiting it is that there's a lot of really good cards that have been printed, and I want to take a look and see how they fit. So I've got a sideboard of cards here that I'm considering that we're going to be taking a look at, and yeah, we'll see kind of where we go with it. So let me know if the audio is coming through clear here, and we're gonna get on started. If you're enjoying the content, of course, leave a like. If you got any feedback for us, we're always trying to improve what we're doing here, Clay and I. So leave us a comment, or you can send it to me on Discord if you have something specific you want, or that you want to see done better. And then, of course, subscribe if you want to keep seeing great content like this. The little bell icon will tell you when we're going live at unusual times. Say if we go live with some video footage of some in-game footage. Okay, so this deck is really interesting in that there are going to be certain elements of it that are going to be really similar between Third Path Iconoclast and this. So let's pull up Third Path Iconoclast just so we can kind of compare and contrast the two. The balance of like ramp, of card selection versus big draw spells, the amount of interaction in the decks. These are going to have similar numbers because they're fundamentally very similar decks. The big difference being that Third Path Iconoclast gets access to tools that allow us to be more mid-range instead of control. And that's the pingers. The pingers eat up a lot of slots. The pingers and the curiosity combo in general, we can see here, that's 8 cards dedicated to that. And then it's in fact actually a little bit more in that we have impact tremors and makeshift munitions, which aren't part of the curiosity combo, but they're accomplishing a similar thing. They're pinging people. So you can see that there's actually like, your volatile claws. We actually have 2 anthems in the deck, which is volatile claws and pack attack, which you can see at the beginning here. Both of them pretty substantial anthems that are going to try and end the game for us. In Murmuring Mystic, we just have 1, and that is Sunken City. So let's take a quick look at that one. This is a card a lot of people don't know about. Sunken City grants all blue creatures +1/+1, and we pay an upkeep cost of double blue to keep it in play. So This is an Anthem effect for us that we can leverage, but it's the only one really. I think there's also Might Stone is another one that we could play too. 4 mana artifact. All attacking creatures get +1/+0. Just sits in play. But instead, we're just going to stick with the one Sunken City. We haven't found a slot for that yet, but that's one that I do want to bring in. We also got a whole bunch of other stuff, and really it's kind of about adjusting to the meta a little bit. So we're going to see what we can do here. Going down the list here, there's Everflowing Chalice, which is a card that I really, really have come to love. It's tutorable off Trinket Mage. It's amazing. Like early game is just a 2 mana rock that allows you to play Murmuring Mystic on 4, basically. So turn 4 with protection of a dive down, intervene, shore up, guard approach, or a dispel of some kind. So that's what it can do there. Late game, it allows us to, or mid game, it allows us to really ensure that we can always recast Murmuring Mystic, because if you cast it for 4, your odds of being able to recast Murmuring Mystic every time it dies go up a lot. You're skipping the curve significantly. And then late game, it's going to really catapult us into that level where we can just cast, cantrip, airborne aid, holding up like 2 counter spells and 2 bounce spells and a protection spell, that kind of stuff. So it's a great card. And I'd like to see if we can find home for it, but there are other things that we need here as well. So we're going to be looking at that. There's also cards like Hard Evidence and Augur of Bolus, which are both interesting in that they're creatures that come down that are going to get us a card later on. And that actually also goes for Seagate Oracle. They're going to come down, they're going to produce a body, and they're going to find us a card. So these cards are kind of like, they're not so much deterrents, they're more like speed bumps or roadblocks, depending on what your opponent has. If your opponent is playing something aggressive, these can kind of get in the way and guard our life total a little bit in those early turns while replacing themselves, so they don't feel so bad to play. We also have some new removal spells. We got Stasis Field, which is going to come in probably for Frogify. There's also Kravorkan Mist, which is a card that I've been looking at for some time, and this meta has sped up quite a bit. And the ability to play a card like this, this card could be as large as you can imagine. It could be like a 15/15, and it's got evasion. So I really like the idea that we can put a card like this in the deck that is going to be able to deliver a really decisive hit at a certain point of the game and kill somebody. Really put on the pressure in the air. This card, all of our bird illusions contribute to this, and it gets large, very large, and it's only 2 mana. So we also got Ifara's Dispersal, which is great. Generally speaking, like we have enough counter spells, enough bounce spells that whether it's attacking or not doesn't really matter so much. And 1 mana, bounce a creature, just surveil 2 is actually really, really good. So I like this card quite a lot in a control context. It's kind of, because we are playing control, more like a very slow game plan, being able to bounce something that's attacking us is important. So there's that. We also have Secrets of the Golden City, which I don't know why it's not in the deck right now. And I think that's just a long, over the course of time, some of my feelings and thoughts around the evolution of these decks changed. And I think Secrets is one that we're definitely going to be wanting to play here. Archaeomancer is interesting. It's a body. It's also going to get back our spells, and really, we have a lot of good spells to pick up. And so I'm kind of interested in that one as well. We're not going to have any way to reuse it, so it's kind of like 4 mana, draw card, make a 1/2. So we'll have to see. Something that we hear about at times is I remember Noyark saying, if a creature is good enough to kill, it's good enough to get back. So if a creature is in your graveyard, you can get it back, and that's actually worth it. The same could be said for spells, except that the spells automatically go there into the graveyard just by casting them. And by spells, I mean instants and sorceries, things that are one-time use. So it doesn't always check out. If we only have a Portent, a Preordain, and a Lofty Denial in our graveyard, Archaeomancer doesn't feel that good. But if we have an Airborne Aid that we cast early, maybe to just draw 3 cards, then it feels really good. But generally speaking, if we're casting Distant Melody, Arcane, or the Airborne Aid, or Keep Watch, we're going to try and turn the corner quickly after that, because people don't like it when you draw 12 cards. So so I'm not sure about that one. We have Meeting of Minds. This is a dead easy include that we're going to be taking a peek at, and figuring out how we're gonna fit it in, because that card is quite excellent. Free draw 2 is so easy to cast. Temporal Cleansing is another one. The more I thought about it, and the more I talked to you all, the more it was impressed upon me that the sorcery speed is not enough of a deterrence to not play this. Temporal Cleansing is good for the same reason that that a couple of other cards are actually quite good right now. And those two cards are Alabaster Host Intercessor, which is the 6 mana 3/4 with plane cycling that has a Banisher Priest effect on it. So it's going to exile a creature when it ETBs, and then if it ever leaves the battlefield, you're going to return it back. However, most cases, if you target somebody's commander with it, they're not going to leave it tucked under the Alabaster Host Intercessor. There's too many things that can go wrong where you just don't get your commander back. And so I think these creatures that ETB and exile or kill, destroy something, are frequently, particularly the ones that exile like that are frequently going to act as just hard removal. Another one is Faceless Butcher. A lot of people aren't playing that one either. And we could actually pull this one up real quick here, because a lot of people, I imagine some of you may not be familiar with this card. Oh boy, it's having a hard time here. Scryfall. Did I get it? Oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. So Faceless Butcher. Faceless Butcher is a 4 mana 2/3. It enters the battlefield. It actually has 2 triggers, and this is one of those weird ones where if you can do something in between, you can kind of abuse this effect. You cast it, cast Undying Evil on it. It's got the target. You sacrifice. It comes back. It eats another thing. That thing that it exiled in the first place doesn't see that second clause, and it's just gone. So could be used or reused stuff, but Faceless Butcher and the Alabaster Host Intercessor are basically great for tagging commanders. If you tag a commander with this, they're probably going to allow it to just go to the command zone, because if their removal spell, maybe the one removal spell they have, doesn't work, then their commander is stuck underneath that thing, and that could be really game ending. So I think a lot of players are probably doing that. So the reason I mention these is that Temporal Cleansing is kind of the same way. Temporal Cleansing, the owner of target non-land permanent puts it second from the top or the bottom. And I think that this just reads like free terminate. Like a free terminate at sorcery speed. So maybe like a free Dreadbore is a better way to put this. But it hits anything, So I'm very interested in this card. I think it's strong. I think this is a card that we want in the deck. It is sorcery speed, which is a bummer, but I think when targeting commanders, it's as good as any other kill spell. Alex says, how does this deck compare to Sailor's Bane? Seems like you're running very similar cards. That's a great question. So Sailor's Bane is a very different deck. Even though some of the card choices are very similar, only some of the card choices are very similar. And you'll see it's going to be in the staple blue cards. Your Boomerangs, your Arcane Denials, your Dispels, Intervene, the Hexproof. It's going to be in the really good card selection like Ponder, Preordain, Sleight of Hand, that kind of stuff. Opt, Consider. Those things are kind of staple in blue if you're a Spells Matter deck. Murmuring Mystic is Spells Matter. Sailor's Bane is Spells Matter. Where you differentiate the two is that Murmuring Mystic is not really concerned about mana cost, and Sailor's Bane very much is. Sailor's Bane has a ridiculously low average mana value. Is incredibly low. So let's pull this one up. For those of you who don't know, I actually have I have several builds of Sailor's Bane. There's really 2 of them. and one of them is turbo. The other one's a bit like mid-rangey in that it's not so urgent to finish the game. So let's take a look at that one. That's the one that I think you should play if it's an open meta. And you'll just see that like there's a huge bias towards free and cheap spells. There's a couple instances where we deviate, where the effect is just that strong. Like something like Tricks of the Trade reads 4 mana, deliver, basically kill a player because it's going to give you the power you need and the unblockability, and you're going to get it for the rest of the game, or as long as Sailor's Bane is in play. And so there's not very many effects of that are like that. Like the best one is Distortion Strike, because you're going to hit them for you're going to hit them for 8 unblockable, and then you're going to hit them for 8 unblockable, and it's 1 mana. It's just like really, really strong. Those effects are pretty slim. So Tricks of the Trade does a lot there. Stealth Mission, similar way. You're buffing it up. Sailor's Bane needs to have either 9 power and then hit for 9 and then 7, or it needs to hit for 7 then 9, or it needs to hit for 8 and 8. And so that's one of the reasons why. But yeah, Sailor's Bane, very different principle. You'll see that the mana value here is like almost all 1 and 2, and anything that's like expensive, like 5, like that's Gush, which is not a 4 mana spell. Hieroglyphic Illumination's 4, but it's really 1 because of cycling. Deep Analysis is sometimes 4, but a lot of times 2 because we mill it over. Behold the Multiverse is 2 and 2, so really like even these 4 mana spells here, they're not that. So Patrick McFadden, welcome to the chat, friend. Glad to have you here. I call my decks jalapeno poppers due to their inherent spicy nature. That's good. I like that. That's a fantastic name for your decks. Let's see. I just want to check real quick. I've got a little chat disconnected. Oh, let's see. We'll make sure we're still connected here. Looks like we had a little stream interruption there. Okay, cool. Looks like we're back. But yeah, you're going to see this mana value is way lower. So if we go over to Murmuring Mystic, we're going to see that the mana value is way more distributed because we're a control deck. Inherently, Sailor's Bane does want to end the game as soon as possible. The mid-range version of it that I recommend that people play if they're in an open meta is mainly a response to the fact that when Sailor's Bane resolves, it's threatening to kill you. It's threatening to kill a player very quickly. And if you don't know that you're not that player, which is kind of a failure on the part of the Sailor's Bane player. When you're playing Sailor's Bane, you should be very clear about who you're targeting, because you can interact with one person, you might even be able to interact with 2, but if you get 3 of them, you're super screwed. You're gonna die. And because even though the first kill spell is expensive, the other counter spells that go against your counter or your protection, they're not expensive. So Sailor's Bane has to play a couple of creatures that can be like roadblocks or speed bumps. That includes Hard Evidence, Merfolk Secret Keeper, Tolarian Terror, Augur Bolus. You've got all these creatures, most of them that are giving you some value when you ETB. And so that inherently takes the deck away from its turbo roots, which is how I first built it. When this card was first spoiled in Japanese, I built the turbo variety of it and was actually playing the deck within 3 hours of the card being spoiled, because it struck me as just fundamentally one of the most fucked up uncommons I'd ever seen printed. So this is the turbo version. You can see it's even deeper, 29 cantrips basically, and you can see, look at this, it's like even more skewed towards that, towards self-mill, towards like peak effects, things of that nature. And then basically you don't have any bodies. You have Tolarian Terror, Augur, you have like half the bodies. So anyways, that's how they compare, Alex. I think that they're very different attitudes. They happen to play some of the same good cards, but I think fundamentally pretty different decks. One of them is trying to go wide and protect itself, whereas Sailor's Bane is more like the best defense is a good offense, whereas Murmuring Mystic is like the best offense is a good defense. It's like, we are not scary, we're possuming, we're building up an army. It's going to play in some ways kind of similar to the timeline of like Gormod, Ghost of Ramirez, Tormod DPH, or sorry, Ghost of Ramirez de Pietro and Tormod the Desecrator. It's going to be the same game plan of like you're relying on being the least threatening thing at the table, and that's going to grant you possum equity to make your way deeper into the game, where your cards like Airborne Aid, Keep Watch, even some of these other engines, like just there's so many high quality draw spells in here that we're going to look to take over the game that way. And with control decks, like finding that inflection point where the control deck is turning the quarter is difficult. And that's to the advantage of the control deck. Because no matter what anybody says, if somebody's comboing off and it's clear that they're assembling their combo, nobody's actually going to justify not using their spells then and losing because they think the control deck's going to take over. They might do it proactively before the combo player is actually comboing off, and that can happen too, but this is one of those strong suits of this deck. So let's take a look at some of the other cards we were considering. We just talked about Temporal Cleansing. That's coming in. There's some like big blue draw spells in here. Expensive, draw lots of cards, like Vivisection, which is a 3-mana sorcery. You're going to sack a creature when we cast it to draw 3 cards. And then it's kind of bigger version, which is Vivisection or Vivisurgeon's Insight, which is 5 mana, draw 3, proliferate. The proliferate only has one interaction with the deck, I think, that matters. And that is with Everflowing Chalice. And then we have cards like Draconic Lore and Mental Journey that are instant speed draw 3s. We also have Read the Tides, which is both a bounce spell and a draw 3. And then we have our Tidal Terror, which is a new card from Mom. That is a island cycler, which is actually pretty cool. Island cycling means we can actually go and find our Mystic Sanctuary, which is very spicy. But when we're not doing that, we have the 6 mana 5/6 that becomes unblockable when we tap creatures we control. So this kind of fits in that category of like, having some ways to close the game out while also having some utility. So I don't have like a perfect sense of how this is going to go today. You all have the link in the description below, I presume. So I'm very interested in hearing what you all think we should do to modernize this deck and what cards might be a best fit for it. What balances we can change, and just in general, what you think about what we should do. One of the things that I'm cognizant of is that at 4 mana, I'm pretty eager to have a single ramp spell in my opening hand, because otherwise you're deploying Murmuring Mystic on, pretty late. Like if you have a hand that only has a counter spell for protection for Murmuring Mystic, which is going to be common, and you're playing it safe, that's going to be a 6 mana play. You need to be able to play it and then protect it. And that's turn 5 or turn 6. Being able to play it on 4, faster, and knowing that it's a 1/5, it's a big creature, right? So it doesn't die to bolts. It will die to black removal, most of it. Not all of it. It won't die to grasp. It will die to Obnixilus's Cruelty. There's tons of ways that it can still die. But if it dies, our game plan is like set back pretty significantly, not from a like time to kill, but in terms of like just getting blockers up. And decks like this, decks like Sailor's Bane, have this problem. Low creature count decks that are like heavily commander reliant, in that if you aren't able to put up defenses, you could just kind of get beaten to death by random stuff. Not even like stuff that not even stuff that's like, really like super scary. You might just get chip damaged quite a bit before you actually get your stuff online. So that's something I want to be cognizant of. Potentially more ramp, potentially more bodies that can like enter the battlefield and give us a body as well as a card. So cards like Hard Evidence, or as some people have called it, Kraben Inspector, and other things like that. We're going to upgrade the removal a little bit. Yeah, Douglas Wilson says, I feel like if we put Everflowing Chalice, it increases the value of any of those cards with Proliferate. Yeah, I think that's true. When you start proliferating Everflowing Chalice, it's pretty gasoline. It's really good. Only question is, do we need another big, draw 3 above Secrets of the Golden City? So like I'm very eager to play this spell frequently. This is going to be 3 mana draw 3. Like Meeting of Minds, Secrets of the Golden City seem like very high tier options here. I know there's a card in here that I will be getting rid of, and that is Gush. Gush is a powerful spell, but this is a control deck. We don't want to go down on resources. We want to continue to move up the ladder, and this being free doesn't justify its being here. So we're going to cut Gush. And for Gush, we're going to bring in the other free spell, which is Meeting of Minds. This is a pretty easy swap. Meeting of Minds is just so good. With just your commander in play, this is already just divination at instant speed. So it's already better, above the curve. But frequently in this deck, it's going to be free draw 2 or 1 mana draw 2, like a Thought Cast. So pretty cool. Other cards that we can look at here. One of the things I'm noticing is that we actually have kind of a lot of counter spells, and I don't think we need this many. Counter spells are good. They've gotten a little worse in the meta lately, or they're just not played as much. I think counter spells can be hard because that counter spell is anything. It's like protection, it's offensive, it's defensive. In this deck that's really good, but like the reality is similar to TPI. We play the counter spells mainly to protect our game plan. We're protecting the Curiosity combo. We're protecting our army. We're protecting maybe TPI. A lot of times we're willing to let TPI die so that we can hold up a counter spell for a Fiery Cannonade or a Pestilence. So I think like an easy cut here is the Mirror Shell Crab. This is a card that was like, I certainly contributed to overhyping. I think it's a cool card, but it's a 3 mana leak. And I don't know, like you can play Mirror Shell Crab along, maybe alongside a Flicker combo because it allows you to counter the activated ability of a Tormod's Crypt or a Relic or a Nihil Spellbomb. That's kind of one of the best homes for it. Other than that, like a lot of times, it's just not doing enough. So we're going to cut this one here. The body is not going to be relevant. It's 7 mana, and the same might be said for Sword Coast Serpent. I think this is a really good card, and I like that it's another way that we can get closing power, but we'll just have to see. So cutting that one, I think we're going to go in ahead and add Secrets of the Golden City to draw. Keeping in mind, of course, that we already have a ton of draw, so it's possible that we actually want, to go up another ramp spell. Douglas Wilson says, does the deck care if the graveyard is removed? Not really. Not really. No, we have the only thing that uses our graveyard is Treasure Cruise. We have some spells that cast from the graveyard, like Deep Analysis, but that's actually not. Oh wait, we actually don't have Deep Analysis in here. And actually, there's a reason for not having Deep Analysis. Deep Analysis is a great spell. It's a lot of draw. 4 cards for 6 mana over 2 casts. But do not forget that Deep Analysis costs you 10% of your life. Whoa. Huh, that's really funny. My phone just started. I don't know if you can see this. My phone just randomly started playing my voice back to me in the live stream. So I was like, what the hell? Anyways, that's goofy. So yeah, we don't really care about our graveyard getting removed. And the reason you're asking that, of course, Doug, is that that's like one of the reasons you might play Mirror Shell Crab is if you're protecting your graveyard, then you're protecting against an Honored Heirloom, a Nihil Spellbomb, Relic, things like that. It operates best when it's countering those sorts of things, and less as a counter spell. And yeah. So So we added, do we add secrets here? No, we have not added secrets. Um, I think I want to come back to this draw. We have a lot of draw effects here. So I think I'm going to come back to this first. I want to do some of the obvious ones. So I think Sword Coast Serpent can go. And we're going to bring in, and we're also going to cut. So we have Frogify and Casminas, I think. We could actually go up on these stasis effects if we wanted to. You know, like cutting Frogify, put in stasis, or we could actually, I think that the first thing I want to do is go Considering, and then Stasis Field for removal into the main deck. So this is replacing Frogify. The reason that this is so much better is that the toughness means that it's not, in this case, it's not as big of a deal as it is in Third Path Iconoclast. In Third Path, the 0/2 means that we can attack through it with our 1/1s, and we're not going to reset their commander. In this deck, it doesn't matter as much because we fly. But Defender is huge. Defender is huge. It can't attack. It has no abilities. And it's a 0/2, which means it won't die to like 1 damage sweepers. So that's pretty cool. Alex Scott mentions Vanishing. I don't think we're going to play Vanishing. Namely because we don't ramp as hard as the decks that play Vanishing need to. So a good example of a deck that really likes Vanishing is Avalanche Caller. Avalanche Caller really likes Vanishing because Avalanche Caller plays 20 ramp spells, which is a lot. That's a lot of ramp. And this deck isn't anywhere near that. I love to be able to play more ramp in here, but I just don't know how much room we're going to be able to find. I think I'm confident that we can find room for an 8th rock, which should up our odds of getting a rock when we start. I'm just not confident that we have mana for Vanishing. It's a very powerful spell. Alex says, that's fair. I just like it because you can enchant Dargo and say swing elsewhere. I click the button. Yeah, I hear you. No, that's for sure. I think we have a lot of other ways to do that to a Dargo. Like bounce spells are actually really good against Dargo. They're cheap. They're splashable. They're instant speed. Dargo is expensive on resources to recast. You can recast it, but yeah, it depends on, if it has haste, then the bounce feels really bad. But if it doesn't, then you know, when they play it, turn passes, they go to attack you, you can bounce it back, and it feels pretty good. You can also lock it down with the auras like Deep Freeze, Witness Protection, or Stasis Field. And I think all of those are kind of cheaper by a lot than playing a Vanishing. Douglas says, when I'm dealing with Dargo, I've really liked Stunning Strike. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about that. Stunning Strike is unique in that it takes the creature out of combat. Although Stunning Strike actually doesn't work on Dargo. I'm sorry to burst your bubble on this one. Yeah, it's a non-legendary. So this one actually does not work on Dargo. Dargo would definitely be one of the targets that you want from this. Stunning Strike is doing something similar to Stasis Field, except that it has Flash. Stasis Field and Stunning Strike both kind of read, you can't hurt me anymore with that creature. That creature is locked down. Stunning Strike actually does work on Dargo. It just won't remain, it won't ice it. So, oh, Wilson says I've been playing it wrong for 3 months. Yeah, it's that little bit of flavor text there. If it's legendary, it's gonna untap. So Stunning Strike is good. Dargo would be one of my main worries. Stunning Strike would work on a Sailor's Bane, which is a big one. But then again, like Sailor's Bane is like hard to target with anything, to be honest. It works on Oxida Finisher. I'm trying to think of like big commanders out there that I'd be worried about. that are non-legendary. The non-legendary part sucks. It doesn't take away the abilities either. So, okay, so we cut. What did we just cut? Yeah, we cut the thing. Impede momentum. Is this another ice effect? Impede mom. Ah. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty good. It's kind of funny with proliferate if you actually were to go ahead and do that. This is a stun effect. Oh, I'm sorry. You can tell my long day at work today is catching up with me. Let me grab a little bit of water and a little bit of electrolyte powder, and I'll be right back with you in a second. Hold on. All right, chat. I'm back. I am back. A little cold in here, too. I'm going to get a jacket. Or this dope fur vest. Okay. There we go. Okie dokie. Let's get back to it here. Impede momentum. Very cool card. I like that we're getting an early way to interact with something that's like fairly long term. It's just going to basically prevent it from being untapped. That's also scrying a card. I will add this to considering or to the sideboard because I think this is a pretty cool card. So the cards that we're looking to get in, we've already brought in one of those. I think we're going to look to get Temporal Cleansing in as well. Oh, and then Afara's Dispersal. I think Afara's Dispersal, is this like, I think this is a little bit better against aggression. It's not as good against combo, but we're pretty well suited to handle combo with our counter spells. So it's kind of aggression that I'm concerned about. And let's actually just bring in some of the cards that I just want to bring in. So let's go Anthems. So we're just going to do this, and then we'll figure out how to manage it. So we're definitely bringing in Sunken City. I think that this card is important for ending the game. I want Krevorkin Mist. This is going to be and actually maybe what we do is, let's just do this. We're going to make a section here called End the Game. And we're going to bring this one into the main deck. And we're going to take away Anthems here and just say End the Game. Because I don't have another category name for it. We ironically do not have Tolarian Terror in here. And that could be a card No, we do. We do. Terror is in here. Okay, good. Terror is quite good in this deck. Okay, that ate up 2 slots. We have 35 lands. I think that's appropriate. I think we can go down on counterspells. So which of these are the worst? Make Disappear is kind of the worst, isn't it? This is basically a 4 mana um, lofty denial that is actually creature neutral. So I think we can cut Make Disappear. Make Disappear has this whole thing where you can copy it, but you're not actually casting the copy, so you don't get another bird. Yeah, I think this can go. Douglas Wilson says, is there any reason we don't run Unwind for counter? We could. I'm actually more bullish on Unwind and Rewind in this current meta because there aren't as many counter spells. When everything was like combo, which is when this deck was really thriving, playing those cards felt really bad. Like if somebody countered it, it just it's hard, you know. But I guess it's not any more bad than other things, I guess. Muddle the Mixture is interesting in that, like, what is this finding that we care about? It finds Perilous Research, doesn't matter. It finds Hands of Binding. This is a really powerful removal effect. For those of you who don't know, Cypher actually reads that every time you cast the spell, every time you hit them, you actually cast the spell again. You don't just create a copy. So you may exile the spell card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. So what Hands of Binding translates to is ice a creature, encode onto or cipher it and encode it, hit, cast it again, make a bird, and then ice another creature, and then every turn you make a creature and you ice something, which is pretty sick, if you ask me. It's pretty sick. So it can find that. It can find Thought Vessel. It can find Sunken Thiddy, Kevorkian Mist. It's not super. I mean, it can find Boomerang and Stasis Field, so it's pretty good. Yeah, Muddle's gonna stay in. Like foil is decent. It's not really exactly what I want to be doing. Like I don't want to be casting I think foil goes. We have all islands, but it's like yeah, I don't think foil is gonna it's not gonna stick around. Is there anything here we can lose? Like we could lose Into the Royal or Blink of an Eye, one of those for the temporal cleansing. We have Spellbomb, Curfew, Boomerang, Echoing Truth. So the ones we don't cut are Witness Protection, Curfew. We don't cut any of these. Boomerang, Echoing Truth, Hands of Binding. Resculpt is insane in the Membrane in this deck because we play this out. We get a bird, which at the very least is going to block that 4/4. But you know what also blocks a 4/4? A 1/5. So Resculpt is great because you like resculpt somebody's creature and then they swing the 4/4 at somebody else. So the game theory around that card is amazing. This is very powerful. We can also make a 4/4 for ourselves by hitting one of our rocks. You can tap Thought Vessel and an island, turn Thought Vessel into a 4/4 and apply more pressure that way. Capsize actually could potentially go. We're not doing anything infinite with Capsize, and it's very expensive. 6 mana in a deck that only has 7 mana rocks in it is like you're going to do it once, and you only really want to do it when you have mana to protect your buyback. So I think Capsize is going to go. Rooftop Nuisance might look funny, but you should know that this spell is basically divination with a double stun attached to it. It doesn't put us creature positive, but I think this is a very good spell, and I like it. I like it that it's like card advantage. that also slows down our opponent's aggression. So now we have 3 slots open. We haven't really harmed any of our sections meaningfully. We have a sleight of hand. Oh, let's see. We got a... There we go. Oh, sorry. The people in the recording won't be able to see all that chat. I have to hover over that. All these 1 mana spells play a very important role in this deck. And that is that they get us our first couple of birds, but they also help us find these big spells. So the card selection isn't just like spinning our tires. You know, we're not spinning our wheels so much as we are finding other things that are big. If you find with Consider or with Ponder, you find Airborne Aid, and then Airborne Aid draws you 10 or even 5 cards, then that Ponder becomes pretty damn good. It's a high impact card. So like Ponder, Preordain, Important, those kinds of effects, Brainstorm, work really well when your spells are really high impact. And we have a couple of them in here. Portent is one that I could see us cutting here, seeing as it only draws at the beginning of the next upkeep. I think I'm comfortable doing that. We'll cut Portent. This is a pretty high number, 21 here. So the cards that we're really interested in are probably Everflowing Chalice. Now, Chalice makes colorless, and that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I don't like it. But what Chalice is super cool for is that if you have Trinket Mage in your opening hand, then you can go Trinket Mage, get that, turn 4, you do Everflowing Chalice for 2. And then on turn 5, then you've got like tons of mana to start deploying your stuff. So I think Chalice is a good one in here. We just want to be cognizant of the fact that Obelisk and Thought Vessel don't make blue, and this doesn't make blue either. So getting that up to 8 is exactly where I want it. I think Secrets of the Golden City is a pretty slam dunk spell here too. I'm actually gonna, let's go back here. I have a hard time not playing this spell in this deck. I'm probably just wrong not playing this spell in this deck. Yeah. Secrets is really good. What else do we have? Temporal Cleansing we were talking about bringing in for removal, seeing as it is indeed free. We could look at other Convoke spells. We have the new Thunderhead Squadron, which is kind of cool. It's actually a pretty good spell. I wish that we had more slots, because it'd be really cool to find room for a flying free 3/4 in the deck. But it's a human knight. It's Noah Bird. It's Noah Bird. So Tormod's Crypt is kind of interesting. I actually think we can cut this. Graveyards are not playing like a big role in the meta right now. And that's not to say that they won't. So like by cutting Tormod's Crypt, you do lose, another way to deal with like a Tatiova combo. But look, we have 13 counterspells in this deck, and there are other players at the table too. Tormod's Crypt being findable with Trinket Mage is going to be useful in certain cases, but a lot of times Tormod's Crypt is going to be straight up dead. Tormod's Crypt is a lot cooler in Third Path Iconoclast because it makes a 1/1, because it's just a non-creature. But I think we can get rid of Tormod's Crypt. We just don't need it. Which opens up another slot, which is great. We could do Afara's Dispersal. We could do... what are some other ones we could do? Mental Journey is kind of interesting because it's got basic land cycling. Mm-hmm. So early on, we can just go find another land with it. Later on, we instant speed draw 3. Pretty powerful. 6 mana is heavy, though. It's a lot. Unexplained Visions is also gasoline. This is scry 3, draw 3, which I like. I don't think we're going to end up playing Vivisection. I don't think we're going to end up playing Vivisection. Vivisection is one of those cards where it's like, if we have it early and we don't have any birds out yet because we haven't gotten Murmuring Mystic down, it's kind of, it kind of sucks because we don't have anything to sacrifice. So I think that's hard. Whereas like Perilous Research, you can always sack a land if you need to. With 2 slots, we've gotten our ramp here. We've gotten some cards that we can end the game with. Does this have another printing? Cold Snap. Cool. We'll do that. Yeah, we've got some cards to end the game. We could replace some of this with like Hard Evidence. We also never talked about Flood. This card is actually like pretty heavy hitting in this deck. The things that fly, we're almost always going to be able to block. Things that fly generally don't have trample. So things that fly, we can just chump block them forever. Things that don't fly, this is where this is really good. And I feel like Flood kind of comes in almost like a removal spell. And the way this reads is somebody's got something that we're worried about, like a Dargo. And they go to combat. And we say, hey, friend, where are you coming with that Dargo? And they say, I'm not telling you. And you say, okay, I tap it down. Alternative, you say, where are you going with that Dargo? And they say, I'm not attacking you. And you say, okay, go right ahead. And either way, we don't get clapped by it. So this card is pretty cool. There's some other interesting stuff we can do with this, I believe. So against an Amber, yeah. Against an Amber, you can tap it down before they get there to attack. And then they don't get their attack trigger. Pretty cool. So that's also worth considering, although Amber isn't exactly like a thing that I'm trying to, metagame against. The decks that I metagame, or the things that I metagame against are, I think like, because a lot of my mid-range control decks, I'm definitely worried about things like Dargo. I'm worried about, for some reason, I don't play against a lot of the stuff that I build. So, but something like Sailor's Bane Flood could be useful there. It's great against Oxida Finisher. If somebody plays this and you're playing Oxida Finisher, I think you might scoop. You're in trouble. You're definitely in trouble. So Flood is pretty cool. I think I'm actually kind of convincing myself of it. Flood is different than Vanishing in that we can target anything. You can even protect people if you need to. I'm not sure when you'd want to do that, but yeah, let's try it. We'll put this in removal for now. It's not really removal, but it does something similar. It's also possible that Impede Momentum could go in that same spot, because really it's going to be like one thing that we're worried about. So maybe the thing with Flood, and maybe the reason why we don't play it, is that it's going to be like, generally speaking, like how often are there going to be multiple things that we really need to tap down? And if that's the case, then why don't we just cast something that, it's like Impede Momentum is only 2 mana, and it's going to do this for 3 turns. To do the same thing with Flood is 7 mana. It's just the Flood is flexible, right? We can play it out. We don't have to use it. It's there when we need it. It's highly synergistic with our flyers. I don't know, chat. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Whether you think this warrants inclusion or not, and whether something like Impede Momentum, or I think that's the next best one. I like this Impede Momentum. The Scry is pretty cool. Admittedly, Impede Momentum doesn't do shit against combo. It's not instant speed. Ifara's Dispersal we also don't have. Flood is also like a permanent kind of a thing. So if you get a flood in play and somebody is playing a Dargo kind of thing, you know, it's pretty effective. So I think we'll try flood. What we're gonna do is we're gonna try flood. But what I want you all to do is, if you're watching this and you're deciding on whether you're going to be making these changes to your deck, try flood out and see how it works for you. And this is definitely one of those. This is going to be a bit more experimental. So I'm kind of curious, how expensive is this right now? Yeah, wow, $1.52. Not bad. By the way, make sure to, when you're using Moxfield playtest, make sure to use a non-Warhammer set printing of your cards, because your card reader won't read the Warhammer stuff. So we have Darksteel Citadel here. I presume this is so that we can find another land with Trinket Mage, but I think we're actually going to cut that and just bring in another island. We have Desert as well. Halimar Depths is kind of unnecessary. How many tap lands do we have? 1, 2, 3. So it's actually not too bad. I think Ifara's Dispersal is definitely wanting to be in the main deck as well, which puts us up to 17 removal spells. But this is like a lot. This is 30 pieces of like potentially proactive or defensive stuff, as well as 4 protection spells. And I think that that's a bit excessive. We still have Runaway Together, which is really good. Although Runaway Together is kind of funny. Runaway Together actually doubles the odds that your spell gets countered, right? Because somebody... so it's like high value. You bounce 2 things for 2 mana. But, yeah. I think it's probably cutting into the Royal or Blink of an Eye. It's probably Blink of an Eye. So let's cut Blink of an Eye. And then I'd love to get like Hard Evidence in here. Let's do O creature, O token. And then type is not creature. Let's just see what comes up. Basically anything that's going to be a spell that creates a body that can block. So like Hard Evidence is just great that way. There's always the Raven form meme, which is that it makes a bird when you do this. And the reason that's relevant is that Airborne Aid looks at all of the birds in play. So, and it exiles artifact or creature. So it's pretty cool. But we can cast this for 1. So we can foretell it early. Murmuring Mystic comes down. Foretell is pretty cool with Murmuring Mystic because you get to play it out early and to discount its cost. And then Mystic comes down and we can cast it later on. So like, yeah. The 1/1 bird token, probably not super relevant. Oh, Rise of the Eagles also makes birds. Oh my god. That's great. 2 bird tokens. We could play Serpentine Curve. This is kind of a cool thought. I like this. Yeah. This is going to be big. Very big. It's going to be hard for our opponents to attack through that. Yeah, Serpentine Curve is a great card for this deck. This is going to go under End the Game. Because Serpentine... Now, the only thing about Serpentine Curve that's funny is that Serpentine Curve doesn't have evasion, and we have no way to grant it evasion. So it's going to be, like, big. It's probably going to be pretty big. You know, it's definitely going to be above the curve, but it's also... Yeah, like, who are we able to hit with this? Whereas Krevorkin Mist is like the same size basically, because Kevorkian Mist is gonna basically check like the number of spells we've cast in that the number of bodies we have, right? But it's flying. It's like a big deal, big difference. So Serpentine Curve could instead be hard evidence, which would be more useful. Early on, it's going to actually draw us a card. It's more of just blocking, whereas Curve is more about like getting the game over. Although Curve is also a great blocker too. Curve is going to be best against combo decks because we're going to force them to block. Basically, it's going to be too big for them to deal with. Oh, you know what I want to do too? Is that I think we should put Confound in this deck. I think Confound is a good card that we should be playing here. This is another protection spell, but also it's like Intervene. It counters a spell that targets another one or more creatures. So Alex says, I think we need some way to end the game. So Curve sounds good. And I think I agree with that. The only trouble is that it seems to me that Serpentine Curve not having any evasion is a little concerning. If we do swing it like a combo player with this, the chances of them having like creatures that they want to block with is kind of low. So it's going to be the Abyss, or it's going to hit them. Could be one of the two. It's also a card that's like fairly dead. Fairly dead in the early part of the game. Whereas hard evidence is, just a draw spell. There's also some question of like hard evidence versus Seagoat Oracle. Hard evidence is nice because you get to pay for it in installments. It also makes a bird, which I think all of that points to being pretty good. I kind of want to bring in hard evidence over like Opt, I think, because they're kind of the same thing. Is Academy Wall? Okay, there we go. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's look at something else. What about Trinket Mage? Are the hits on Trinket Mage good enough to justify? We have land, Spell Bomb, Chalice. The answer is no. These are all good cards, but we're going to take that away. So that makes room for Serpentine Curve, or it makes room for hard evidence over Serpentine Curve. My intuition says hard evidence is just like more effective. Serpentine Curve is kind of like a second copy of Kevorkian Mist or Tolarian Terror, but like bigger. I'm just curious to see like if we have this in our opening hand, which is never a good argument because in a sense like opening hands are only a fraction of the cards that you draw over the course of like multiple games, right? Your like odds of drawing a card in your opening hand are actually quite low. So it's not always good to look at things and say, oh, is this good or bad in my opening hand? It's fine if it's bad in your opening hand, if it's good later on, unless your deck is like really biased towards being an early game deck. This is not one of those. However, like we're comparing it against like hard evidence, which, is a 0/3. It's going to make a bird. It's 1 mana. It's kind of like got Foretell in a sense, because we're doing it in installments. We can draw a card later on. I think I'm kind of selling myself on hard evidence. It's a card I've wanted in the deck for some time. Curve is going to be a better blocker, a better attacker, it's going to be absolutely huge. And maybe we don't actually need, we actually don't need the body. Serpentine Curve is also its own form of deterrence, because if we don't attack with it, other people can't attack us for two reasons. One, because we can block, but also two, because maybe it's Opt. I think Opt is what comes out. And the question is it Opt or Sleight of Hand? I think Opt is better than Sleight of Hand. We got to be careful about cutting too many of these. Oh, we brought in Confound without cutting anything. So let's fix that first. So we have Confound, and I think we're gonna cut one of these. Like, Shore Up is not really that relevant. Untapping things is not that relevant. Like, untapping a Tolarian Terror could be relevant. Untapping a Krevorkin Mist, a Serpentine Curve, but we're never attacking with Mystic, and we don't really care about that. I'd like to keep this intact. So what I'm going to do is cut Shore Up. We don't have Mizzium Skin in here. That is a mistake. Mizzium Skin is relevant. The Overload is relevant. Yeah, we're going to play Mizzium Skin for sure. And we're going to play it over Dive Down. Dive Down having +0, +3 doesn't really matter. And Shore Up doesn't really matter either. Confound, the reason Confound is really cool here too is that Confound becomes another counterspell. Because somebody goes to target Freed from the Real, or they go Ghostly Flicker, we can counter it with Confound and draw a card. So I think it's a good card in the deck. We're going to bring in Hard Evidence into the main deck. And Hard Evidence is also going to be a creature, but it's a draw spell too. I like looking at it as kind of like another copy of Opt or Consider. Okay, I'm starting to like this. We've got basically, like, if we look at some of the changes we're making here, we have more ways to end the game. We have more ramp. We have more creatures, and we actually have like about the same amount of interaction while retaining the same number of lands. I don't think we want the other Cypher cards, Last Thoughts and Hidden Strings. Last Thoughts does draw a ton of cards. This is like Monarch in this deck. It's like Monarch that makes a bird. So you cast it, you draw a card, you make a bird, you Cypher, you encode it onto a creature, they hit, they draw a card, and you make another bird. So it's very strong. Hidden Strings is a little bit funny. Hidden Strings, you cast it, you get a bird, you tap something down, tap down a permanent, and then you tap or untap. So what this often looks like is you cast Hidden Strings, you make a bird, and you untap the land you used to cast it. And then you attack, you make a bird, and you untap the land you used to cast it. So it kind of like gives you, it's almost like Hidden Strings is like another mana rock. Because it's allowing you to like untap your lands mostly. You can also use it to tap down like I don't know, like maybe a Gretchen land or something. The fact that it's happening at sorcery speed is kind of where this is almost like, it acts a little bit like Greatsword of Tyr, where it's like I'm tapping something down. I'm tapping two things down. Oh, actually, you know what? Hidden Strings is more than that. You tap and untap you tap or untap, and then you tap or untap. And then if you have it ciphered, so Hidden Strings reads this way. On the turn you cast it, it's a ritual. You cast it, untap the land, untap the land. It's free. You make a bird, you attack, you hit, you untap, make a bird, and then every turn of the game that this is able to connect, we actually get 2 more mana. And we make birds. Huh. Chat, what do you think about hidden strings as a way to have more mana and potentially do other things? I don't know what the other applications of this are. Tapping like a land that has a bunch of auras on it is one. Tapping down a blocker, two blockers. I guess what we can do with this is we can go to combat and we can tap down people's lands, so that when we play like Distant Melody, they aren't able to counter our stuff. I mean, I've played with all of these before. Hands of Binding feels hands down like the best. Last Thoughts, though, is pretty disgusting. Yeah, so Douglas says the ability to tap their value engines or their lands. So when we're talking about value engines, would you define what you mean? Specifically, what cards are you thinking? Because when I'm hearing value engines, I'm hearing Bonder's Ornament, I'm hearing Honored Heirloom, I'm hearing Network Terminal. I'm hearing maybe like a Sivirus. So you hit like Sivirus and tap it down, but then in response, they just tap it. I think Hidden Strings is mostly like a broken combo card, or it's a way to give us more mana while making birds. All of these are bird engines, which is really cool. Like, Last Thoughts, when you don't have anything to do with it, sucks. Like early game, this becomes like 4 mana draw card. But late game, it slaps pretty hard. And we haven't even, gotten into like the mental journey. We have like a pretty awesome draw suite, so I'm not convinced that we need more. I was pretty enticed by the island cycling on Tidal Terror. Like, Tidal Terror is basically the new Shoreline Ranger. If we go island cycling. Yeah. Ooh, keep this in mind, folks. Big brain stuff here coming in, incoming, straight to your dome. Tidal Terror is the new Shoreline Ranger. It's a lot better. In certain cases. Tap 2 creatures, it becomes unblockable, and it finds Mystic Sanctuary. I wonder if Tatiova wants to be running Tidal Terror. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so Bonder's Ornament is what you're thinking of? Yeah, I mean, I think that's... The funny thing is that even though I would say that I played a large role in popularizing Bonder's Ornament in competitive, Bonder's Ornament is not seeing a lot of play right now. It used to be like, when the control decks and the mid-range decks that I was building were starting to come up, that was when it was mostly combo. And so like having Bonder's Ornament was like, well, if nobody else plays it, then I draw cards for the rest of the game. And you all can like have your counterspell wars and I'll just draw cards. It's like insanely strong. And then when other people started to play it, it got even better because then they draw you cards too. So it's like there's no way to lose with that card. Where you lose with it is nowadays, the games end faster and people just aren't playing Bonder's Ornament as much. So the combination of a faster combat meta, because the combo games could get very grindy with everybody sitting behind a wall of interaction. Yeah, it's really good here, Alex says. It does. Could you explain what was that? I lost my train of thought there a little bit, Alex. What were those comments in relation to? Interestingly enough, the other thing about that Hidden Strings is that you can untap stuff like Honored Heirloom or Lantern of Revealing or Network Terminal. I don't know that Lantern of Revealing belongs in this deck. Oh, Tatiova wants Tidal. Yeah. I actually had not thought about that. I really like the idea of Tidal Terror, actually. It's kind of sick. Like, talk about a cool card in this deck, right? Like, is there a better home for Tidal Terror out there? Like, Tidal Terror is modal. It finds a way for us to get back any spell at instant speed with Mystic Sanctuary, or it helps us end the game by hiding behind a wall of birds, tapping 2 of them to swing in for 5. This might actually be what we want to play instead of Serpentine Curve. It is actually. Tidal Terror. You know, ironically, if we're thinking that way, is Shoreline Ranger also? Well, first of all, it's a bird. It's a bird. Caw, caw. I think Serpentine Curve is coming out and Tidal Terror is in. It's a little more expensive, but the modality of it is that we can like instant speed get things like this. This can get us a card, right? It can just use it to get Mystic Sanctuary at end step, put something big on top that we want. Oh wait, no. So we're gonna let's see, how does that work? So if we do it at instant speed at the end step, we're just getting it into our hand, but it's not going into play. So we still have to play it. It goes on top. Then we have to draw it to do something with it. So Tidal Terror is going to be like good early on for like finding our next land drop. It's going to be good for Mystic Sanctuary to recover a spell. You know, in some ways, we could actually look at Tidal Terror and Shoreline Ranger are actually like Mnemonic Wall, right? But they can attack. Huh. So Mnemonic Wall is cool because we get a spell back right away, but it does nothing else. It just blocks, right? It's like 5 mana, block things. Shoreline Ranger and Tidal Terror both find lands early game, which is exceptionally important. We need to hit our land drops. So early game, they find land drops if we need them. Mid game, they can find Mystic Sanctuary. Mid or late game, they can find Mystic Sanctuary to like help us like reuse something. Or they can just be bodies that block. Okay, this is going to sound kind of radical, but we're going to cut Mnemonic Wall and we're going to bring in Shoreline Ranger and Tidal Terror. This feels like an aha moment for me, actually. Tutors. Yeah. Lantern of Revealing is another card we could consider too. Like, I'd love to get like another. This balance of rocks right now is a little fucked up a bit. We need more 2-mana rocks. So let's bring in Arcane Signet, and we're gonna cut Lantern of Revealing. I like Lantern, but I think that's not what we want to be doing here. Oh my god, you know what also is a bird? Is Aarakocra Sneak. But the question is, do we care about initiative? Land is good. The Scry 2 is great. The Treasure is great. The Forge is fine. The Goad is good. Drawing a card is good. The 4/1 is fine. Putting a creature into play is going to be like deeply inconsistent. It's just not actually what we're playing it for. It's a 1/4 that blocks nicely. Okay, cool. I like this. Let's take a stab at it. I think like generally speaking, I like to have like a nice balance between these 2 and 3 mana ramp spells. We can protect an easy initiative with 10. Yeah, that's part of the thing. Like actually, like these decks that just Xerox out creatures like crazy, like TPI, are actually like phenomenal initiative decks. But the things that they're surrounded by are so much better than the initiative, right? Like the initiative is great because it's like this repeat source of value. But like when I've played TPI and I've gotten the initiative, it's kind of like, okay, I have the initiative, but like I just drew like 10 cards off of Keep Watch. Like the value differential there is pretty dramatic. Like initiative is great in decks that can protect it, that really need it, or where all the things that you're doing are really good. I do like the idea of forging up a 1/1 so that you have like a kind of bigger blocker, bigger attacker. Aircrocker and Sneak is not bad. Like, I like the idea of casting it on 3. You know, if you go like Arcane Signet on 2, cast it on 3, get your land, play your 4th land, and then you've got mana for Murmuring Mystic. It's definitely a win condition. All right. If we were to play Aircrocker and Sneak, which card would we cut? It kind of looks like removal a little bit. God, could you imagine you flip Tidal Terror? You know, the funny thing is that for all this talk about like Tidal Terror and Kevorkian Mist, there was a card that we cut earlier that I'm actually having second thoughts about. So let's go back and add Swordcoast Serpent back into the deck. Swordcoast Serpent is basically a Tidal Terror, right? But it's also a bounce spell. So you're bouncing, you're getting a bird, and then it can't be blocked as long as you've cast a non-creature spell. So I think that's actually really premium, and I want this back in the deck. So maybe Flood is the cut, because we already have lots of ways to lock down a creature forever. Witness Protection, Stasis Field, Deep Freeze, all of those are like pretty hard lockdown. Or maybe we cut something. It's so funny. This so frequently happens, but I've been cutting the ever-living crap out of Into the Royal and Blink of an Eye out of my decks. The number of times that I'm actually able to cast those spells in a way where I draw a card is not that high, and drawing a card off of it doesn't always feel that great. It's kind of funny, but that's just how it feels. Like most of the time, I'm just casting them for 2. I could cut Runaway Together. Runaway Together for Swordcoast Serpent seems like a reasonable cut. But then the question is Runaway Together worse than Into the Royal? Into the Royal hits non-land permanents. It can draw a card. This is going to hit 2 things. It's also a protection spell and a bounce spell. So you cast this, somebody goes to kill Murmuring Mystic, you bounce it, and you bounce one of their things. I want to try Flood. I want to try this. I think that this is great in this deck. Like, how many flying creatures out there also have trample? Oh, 5. Damn. Flood is good. Let's try this one. Can't be blocked by... Oh, they already have it here. Wait a second. What's the Silhana Ledge Walker? Can't be blocked except by creatures with flying. Yeah, Alex, I think that I've come full circle on that one. The more I look at this, the more I see that like these are like serving an important role in the deck, which is their bodies, they're doing something else, and they also yeah, there's a high level of modality, especially to these two. Plus, I mean, this has been a meme for a long time, but in combo matches, Shoreline Ranger has frequently been a creature that the combo decks die to. It's pretty funny. It's always shown with the 2 laser eyes. The last thing you see before you perish is the Shoreline Ranger coming for that cheddar, coming to clap them cheeks. So Shoreline Ranger and Tidal Terror are actually, man, this is such a cool thing. It's like they're both 6 mana, they both have evasion, they both island cycle. And they're both relatively big bodies. So I think Serpent falls into that same category. So we need to cut a card. We have so much removal in this deck. So much. I think that, man, I just don't value this that much. We just added temporal cleansing too, so we have 1, 2, 3. This would actually, okay, so we're gonna have to cut Runaway together. I like the card, but we've just got other things to do. Ifara's Dispersal, it's possible Runaway together is better than this, but the Surveil 2 seems really good, right? Like 1 mana, it's half the cost. We hit one thing, we get to Surveil 2. I think that's good. Okay, this is a great place to be here. I want to take us through some playtest. This is a very nice hand. We're going to go turn 1 Halimar Depths, and then we're going to get the Tokashas out on turn 3 probably, so we'll draw for turn. Halimar Depths on 1 is like, whew, what a card. We're going to put this on top. So boom, boom, boom. Draw. Now I think we're actually going to use the Consider. We could hold the Consider for the commander. I think that's what we want to do. But we could also mill those lands over. I think that's probably what we want to do. So we're going to Consider. Alex says, so fun fact with infinite mana, Into the Royal with Archaeomancer allows you to draw your deck, which is why combo decks run it. I learned that recently. Yeah, so you can... so if you are... Is it Into the Royal that does that? Into the Royal, bouncing Archaeomancer to draw a card. This is if you have infinite mana. Okay, yeah. So Into the Royal, draw a card. Bouncing Archaeomancer. Archaeomancer comes back, play it, get a card. So with infinite mana, or get the Into the Royal it again, draw a card. Okay, I see. So yeah, it's infinite. That's same with Blink of an Eye, I guess too. And yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So it's a way to draw your deck. That's pretty cool. I like it. I think this is good here because we want to get rid of this island, and we're going to draw another island. But we want to clear through those lands. Flood's pretty cool, so we're actually going to play Flood. Wow, Flood feels great here, hey? So like turn 1, play Flood. Anybody comes at us, we can spend our mana. We can spend our mana turn after turn after turn, tapping things down so that they don't hit us. So say we have to use our mana, we're going to tap something down. They're going to make us use it. We're going to play our land. We're going to play 1, 2, 3. We're going to play Bonder's Ornament. We can hold 2 up. We're going to need to use these 2 to bounce or to tap something. Now we're going to play our island, and we're going to play our Murmuring Mystic. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if anybody tries to interact with us, we're going to go 1 mana Curfew. We're going to get a bird, and we're actually going to return the Mystic. So we're going to assume that they're trying to kill our Mystic, which I don't know if that... Why is it not going back to hand? It doesn't want to. Okay. But I'm going to assume they try to kill our Mystic. But the way this works is really nice because now we go Tokash's Dig Site, tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Yeah, we actually want to go like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to cast the commander, and then we're going to pay 1, 2, cast Winged Words, make one of these. We're going to draw 2. And then we're going to go 1 mana of One Mind to draw 2. Sick. Okay. And draw. Ooh, Everflowing Chalice in this is like very good. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we do it for 4. We could also go deeper and 5, 6. Yeah, we'll do it for 3. Big dick energy on that one. Or Big Tit energy, whichever you prefer. And then we can hold up 2 mana for Perilous Research. So say we pass, we have to block, maybe we like lose a bird, and then we go, when we're blocking with that bird, we sacrifice it with the Perilous Research, which makes another bird, and then we're going to draw 2. Krevorkin Mist is cool here. So now we're going to draw. This is where this Bonder's Ornament and this Tokasha's dig site, it's going to go really hard. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Tap this, draw a card. Wow, look, Holy Island, Batman. Maybe what we're supposed to do here instead is we go, yeah, this is what we want to do. We go Tokasha's, surveil that away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Draw a card, Stasis Field. 1, 2, Kevorkian Mist. It's only a 3/3 right now, which is not very big. And then we pass turn. Sleight of hand is great here. We're going to go, I think we go sleight of hand, make a bird, look at the top 2. We want this, I think. Sunken City's unfortunate we're putting this to the bottom. But yeah, where art thou, foil? Yeah, foil went to take a long nap in my considering section. So tap 3, tap this, scry. It's not really what we need right now, so we're actually gonna graveyard this. Depends on the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tap that, draw a card. We can always do that at end step. So probably what we ended up doing is we cast like Stasis Field on something, and then we held up the mana for Bonder's Ornament. And then we draw. So it's a lot. We're not actually hitting a ton of... We've hit draw spells, but we hit like a zillion lands. And actually we forgot to play a land last turn, so there. So now we go 1, 2, 3, surveil. We're going to put this to the graveyard, and then we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, tap this, draw a card. Damn. More lands. Well, what we can see here is that the deck is functioning. We have protection for any sort of combo kills or anything really threatening. We have a board full of stuff. We have a graveyard full for treasure cruise, and we have a tool that we can sink our mana into. Like, ultimately, this card just looks nuts right now. Like, if we flood out, then Flood has our back. If we flood out, oh God, somebody stop me. This is another great hand. So we'll draw. We're going to go 1 mana, play out an Aether Spellbomb. Draw. Island. I think we need to ponder here just to get some mana rock. There we go. Yeah, that's what we wanted. Una's Grace. So Una's Grace looks really good there. But let me challenge you on Una's Grace. Yeah, no, I hear that. It does turn them into birds. But if we're going to play Una's Grace, why wouldn't we just play Last Thoughts? So Una's Grace is 3 mana instant speed draw card. So the first card we get's cheap, and then we can retrace it at the cost of a land. But why wouldn't we just play Last Thoughts? Last Thoughts is 4 mana. We draw a card, and then we swing with a bird that we attach it to. Immediately, we draw 2 cards, and we make 2 birds. And then every turn, we make a bird, and we draw a card. So I think actually, I hear what you're saying with Una's Grace, especially in the context of that, but Last Thoughts is just like better. Last Thoughts might be really good. Might be really. I mean, I've played it in the deck before, and it was awesome. One of the cool things about Last Thoughts and these cipher cards is that when our opponent, when we do this, we turn a creature that we made for free, basically, like we didn't have to pay for the body. We turn this creature into something that our opponent may think needs to die, and that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny to me. You know, like, opponent is hyper threatened by the Hands of Binding bird. Yeah, the bird can die, but you know, if opponent, think about this, if opponent is killing your bird because it has this like cipher spell that already drew you cards, that's like kind of funny. I find that funny. Like, it's good for us. I mean, it's bad. Like, we want the bird, but we can always protect it if we want. But it's funny to like kill a bird, this 1/1 bird that has, you know, cipher spell on it. I feel like I'm kind of convincing myself that Last Thoughts should be in the deck, actually. But we'll play this one out here. I think I want network terminal and preordain, so we're actually going to do it this way. So we'll go, I really like dispersal shield here. So that's good. And then this goes to the graveyard. Tap there. And then we're going to go island into network terminal. And we could, I think we actually, so we know the top is going to be dispersal shield, right? So we could use this to cast it. Alternatively, we're going to play our Murmuring Mystic next turn, and we're not going to have enough mana to cast the counterspell. So we're going to cast the Preordain and Scry 2. The land is really good here. We're going to grab Dispersal Shield, bin that, or bin this, of course, and then we're going to draw for turn, play this, and so we've got 2 in here. I think what we do is we just hold up this. This is going to come down shortly after Murmuring Mystic. So we hold this, somebody comes after us, we just Sword Coast Serpent it, this goes in there. We could also ambush something, which is pretty funny. We go like 1, 2, like resculpt our Seat of the Synod. Oh, you know why we had Darksteel Citadel in here? It was because resculpt. Resculpt is another target for it. That's actually a good reason to still have that. Being able to convert your lands into like an ambush viper that's a 4/4 is pretty good. We might not want to hit a rock with it, but we could hit that. So yeah. Okay, cool. So maybe we resculpt. So we're not going to resculpt something here, but we might need to, but I don't think we want to right now. So we do this. We go this 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to cast the Murmuring Mystic on turn 6. Not super fast, but then we're going to have Dispersal Shield up to make our first bird. And you can see this is pretty slow. I'm not saying this is a fast deck. It's just not. Airborne Aid, very cool. So we cast Thought Vessel, and I think that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can actually cast Tolarian Terror right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we actually need to, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, cool. So we got Tolarian Terror. So we have a nice little wall set up here, and it's actually not turn 7. It's it's actually turn 6 right now. So it's turn 5 Mystic, which is good. Like that. And then we go 1 mana. We always want to tap this first because we might reconsider it, or we might resculpt it. So we're going to make a bird. Do we want this land? We don't. So we'll draw a card instead, and we get a land, of course. And then I think we might be in the stage where we're actually going to get rid of this. So we're going to pay 1, sack this. Oh, actually, wait a second. How many lands do we have right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ah, good. This is kind of nice. I like being able to put up some bodies here. We don't even have that many birds, but we just have like bodies, which is nice. And we're gonna have the ability, like, we don't need to hold up removal because we're just making chonkers, upkeep, land. Land here could be like this, draw curfew. Curfew is kind of cool. Sword Coast Serpent too. Sword Coast, bring it up. Boop it, boop boop doop 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 doop. Not really sure. I think we're kind of in a passive holding pattern here. It would be nice to be able to attack with this, but we don't really need to right now. There's really like no reason to. We could just cast Airborne Aid. Actually, that might be the thing. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we just cast Airborne Aid. Oh, wait, one sec. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there a way to game this with Curfew? Where we go like 1 mana Curfew, bring back the Tolarian Terror, make a bird. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it works. Airborne Aid. draw 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ah! Oh, it's so sick. Okay, cool. Now we've got the Shoreline Ranger, which can get this back with the Mystic Sanctuary, draw it with the Network Terminal to cast it again. Gross. This card is already gross. I love it. Okay, cool. This is sweet. So I bet Murmuring Mystic dies there because we're tapped out, you know. And somebody's like, "Stop that! You're doing scary things." Hashtag Bird Gang. So we're gonna go. Like we don't even need Murmuring Mystic in play right now, but we could. Like we don't even need to use this. We've got plenty of card draw. So what we're gonna do is go Island. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cast Murmuring Mystic. Like literally no problem. And then we can Aether Spell Bomb and then cast this Perilous Research. We can also cycle, although this is a nice combination. We can Island Cycle, Mystic Sanctuary, a Lonely Sandbar to draw the card. So I think what we'll do is we'll pass a turn, end step, holding this up right here. Let's say we have to use it, so we'll use it, and then we'll pay to Island Cycle. And we're gonna go get Mystic Sanctuary. Ah, come on, V, right? View library, V? Huh, interesting. Mystic Sanctuary. Get that, draw it, play it. Airborne Aid on top. Pay 1 mana. Cycle Lonely Sandbar. Draw it. 1, 2. Oh, actually, this does not come into play tapped, right? Yeah. So pay the 1 for the Lonely Sandbar, draw it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Airborne Aid. Trigger. Draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, pretty sick. Cool. This is great. I love this. Okay, so big changes that we're talking about. Let's do a quick recap here before we wrap up, because I think we've actually done a pretty good job here. Let's take a look at how long we've been streaming now. How long have we been streaming for? A little bit. Yeah, we still got a couple of you in here. I do appreciate everybody who's stuck around and hung out with us here. So TLDR, these are really like tuning changes that are, you know, this isn't so much like meta specific as it is like meta general, okay? Because the difference between Murmuring Mystic and the meta it was in and Murmuring Mystic and the meta it's in now, the meta it was in versus now, is that the meta that we currently have is far more stable in that it's not likely to change a whole lot, I think, compared to where it was before. Like before, it was like mostly combo decks with like Tormod the Desecrator and Ghost, right, as a control deck. You had Murmuring Mystic as a control deck. You had Crackling Drake as a control deck. And then you had like all of these combo decks. And there wasn't any aggro. There was a little bit of Voltron, but it was more incidental through Crackling Drake or through like ghost damage or something. And that meta, when this format evolved and sort of matured, we suddenly had this huge rounding out of all the other stuff with, you know, you had more combo decks, you had more aggro decks, you had all the mid-range decks that people were working on. So things have matured in a way that we're not likely to go back to the pure combo stuff, which means that what we're doing is we're not meta tuning this deck for a meta that's likely to change. This is meta tuning the deck for a meta that is a representative meta, not in that like it's not that we have like a perfect distribution of every archetype, but what I mean by representative is that there's a better representation of each archetype, or a higher representation of each archetype as opposed to the total division of decks out there as there was before. And so based on that, this deck is built to combat a variety of different things, right? We have tons of different tools for creatures in play and for non-land permanents. We have Still have a ton of counter spells to protect our stuff, as well as not dying to combo. And we just have a phenomenal draw suite. So changes we made. We reduced the number of counter spells. We actually improved the nature of our draw suite with Meeting of Minds, Secrets of the Golden City. We added Hard Evidence. We added more bodies. Okay, so in line with adding a little bit more draw, we did so by adding bodies. So Hard Evidence is one of those. We added in a little bit more modality along with those creatures. So the creatures we added are actually tutors. And we saw it in that last playtest there, the ability to just and we had multiple ways to draw that Mystic Sanctuary that we put on top or that we put into our hand. So we're putting the Mystic Sanctuary in hand with 2 different cards. And then we can just draw that card and then recast it. And in this case, the card we were recasting was a massive draw spell. These cards are also going to play, like all 3 of these can play Game Ender. Shoreline Ranger to a lesser degree, but look, like tons of people have been killed by this in the past in like combo metas where they just like couldn't, use a counter spell on this or couldn't use a bounce spell and then they just died in 3-point chunks. It doesn't die to bolt. Pretty cool. So we added a lot of ways to end the game, which never was a problem that we considered important before, because before it was like, I'm just going to kill you with birds and I'm going to sit behind a zillion counter spells and a bounce spells and you can try to combo. It's not going to matter. And it doesn't matter that I can't kill you maybe all at once. I'll kill you over 3 turns. And I'm going to draw all these cards. I'm going to Bonder's Ornament supporting me, all this mana. It just doesn't matter. Nowadays, the ability to end the game for tournament reasons is important, but also just in general, having ways to... Kevorkian Mist is our way to say, no, I'm not going to die to whatever you're doing. I'm going to play this thing and I'm going to hit you for a ton of damage, like 7 in the air or 15 in the air, Kevorkian Mist is also cool because it's basically, Kevorkian Mist is Sunken City, right? Kevorkian Mist is adding 1 power in play for every bird we have, which means it's doubling the power in play whenever we play it, basically. So we can send Kevorkian Mist at somebody, kill them, and the rest of the birds at somebody else and kill them. So we have less counter spells, but our counter spells are actually more interactive because we actually have the Confound now. We have more bodies. We have more ways to end the game. We have more ramp. We have more tutors. And generally speaking, everything else stayed the same. We upgraded our draw. We upgraded our removal. We cut Graveyard Hate a little bit. I think the last thing that I really want to do here is maybe before we wrap things up here, we don't have a Lexi's Cloak. Oh, okay. Sorry, chat. We gotta extend this a little bit longer. Alexi's Cloak is a must. We're 100% playing that card. There's also Tragic Lesson, which is a way to reuse our Mystic Sanctuary, which is kind of interesting now that we have a way to tutor for it in 2 different ways. Where's the bird engines? Where are our bird engines? Yeah, last thoughts. Let's get this in the sideboard here. Alex says, I'm building 4 decks to bring to my PDH group play group to make a CPDH pod. How do you think of the pod composition of Vizkopa, Tatiova, Gut-Inspiring Leader, and Sailor's Bane? Oh boy. It's funny. When you build a pod, you're going to kind of lock those players into a certain play pattern that is going to be like kind of the same every time. And so that play pattern has to be really good. Sailor's Bane is a hard counter to Vizkopa and to Tatiova. Gut does not like to be up against Tatiova or Vizkopa, mainly because Tatiova can combo off very quickly and the Gut deck doesn't have a giant amount of interaction or a ton of card advantage to like maintain parity when you're deploying 1-for-1 removal. Vizkopa is a pretty hard counter to Gut too because we're gaining a lot of life. There's a lot of ways to stay alive. It's not commander damage. Sailor's Bane is really good here. Like if I'm the gut player, I'm going to feel pretty impotent here because the only target that feels good as the gut player is Sailor's Bane. And if you start attacking the Sailor's Bane as gut, the Sailor's Bane player is just going to kill you. In fact, like if I'm playing Sailor's Bane here, I'm probably going to kill the gut player because the gut player is going to look at the Vizkopa and say, man, that's going to be a really hard target. My damage isn't worth it. Tatiova, kind of the same way, although Tatiova could probably kill. I don't know. There's some interesting gameplay dynamics there. It just feels like gut is like not going to win that game. So when I think about pods, I would think more about a battle box if you can. I know it's more decks, but look, this format's hella cheap. I would look to build like 8 decks for a battle box and then have people select from that. Because otherwise you're kind of like determining a play pattern that's likely to play out every single game. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay, so we're going to get this Alexi's Cloak is going to go in the main deck, and it's going to go under protection. It also is a counter spell. You can put it on your opponent's stuff. So I think we're going to cut, you see a guard approach. This could be the one. Or it could be one of these, like Mana Leak. We could cut Mana Leak. Or Prohibit. I like the 1 mana protection, but quite frankly, like the 1 mana protection also doesn't do anything against other players, and Alexi's Cloak actually does go on other people's stuff. So Mizium Skin can protect us from 1 damage sweepers, so it's relevant. Intervene can protect our stuff or stop opponent's stuff. You see a guard approach is the last one that doesn't have some sort of modality to it. I'm going to cut it and keep Alexi's Cloak. Alexi's Cloak is just Shroud for the rest of the game. It's nuts. Alex says, the goal is to make them to want to build their own deck. I'll definitely consider a battle box. Yeah, for sure. So you want to give them a taster. Okay, so what I like about that is the thing is that what you have there is like it's not very representative of the different archetypes. What you have there is different colors, and I like that. You have white and black with Vizkopa, blue Simic with Tatiova, you have Boros with Gut, and you have Mono Blue. I think that if you could get like Passageway Seer or actually Rilsa. Rilsa's a good one to have in there because you should have a mid-range deck, an aggro deck, a combo deck, and then a control deck. I think that's a cool dynamic to do. The only problem there is that your combo deck is going to get run over super bad. So you should probably have 2 combo decks, in which case I would play, I think Avalanche Caller would be a cool one. Avalanche Caller can defend itself. It has a cool combo. It has interaction. Yeah, so like Avalanche Caller, you could actually it would be kind of fun to see like a mono-colored pod. So you do like Passageway Seer as your aggro deck. You do, Cormella is interesting. I don't know. I think Cormella, maybe it's just the way that I've seen it built, but I'll just quite simply, I've never lost to Cormella, and I haven't actually seen Cormella win. I don't know if that's just the way it's being built, and frankly, I'm not a big fan of turbo decks in this format. They draw a lot of aggro, and you end up getting like dumpstered, and then because you're like this low to the ground turbo deck where like a lot of slots are dedicated to really fast stuff, you have a hard time recovering. So you like blow your load, you get stopped, you have nothing in hand, and you just kind of like you're at the whim of everybody else. And I just don't like that. And that's how Cormella has been built. It's been built with a lot of like rapid fire, rituals and like all this like spell pierce type stuff. And maybe if Cormella were built more mid-range, like not mid-rangey, but like kind of like control combo where you like lean into like pestilence and like crypt rats and ways to gain life and like buffer your life total with blockers like vampire spawn Diregraph Scavenger type stuff, and then you slowly assemble the combo. I like that better, but it just feels like it's defenseless. Its only thing, it's like a one-trick pony, is to combo. And I know this is subjective, but I don't think that's a good strategy in this format. When you start encountering like diversified pods and you're just trying to turbo really hard, it's hard. And some of the pods that have been showing up lately, I haven't been able to play a lot lately. So, like I'm not like contributing data, but there have been a lot of these like turbo, like CEDH type pods where you've got like Malcolm Breach's turbo and you have like, like Avalanche Collar, which is not turbo, but, and then you have maybe Dargo Kedis or like, just like these all index, then they all seem a little bit more like reasonable, but I don't know. Yeah, not bullish on it. So I think Cormella could be done better. Yeah, so Grixis control combo. I think there's untapped potential there. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I mean, Cormella's got to be at least decent. I don't think its win rate is reflective of its potential. I mean, it's Grixis. It gets access to insane spells. I mean, I've heard people talk about playing Cormella as like as just a control deck. I think at that point, that what you're playing her for is the ability to like get a spell back from your graveyard, which is pretty cool. But then like if you're doing that, why aren't you playing Sidrax's Spectre? And even more so, like, why aren't you just playing Sphinx of the Guild Pact, which is 5-color and has like a hexproof 4/4 flyer in the command zone? Yeah, Alex says it has to be. It's one of the few 3-color decks with, which is a huge advantage. Yeah. Although I will say, when you're playing 2 colors, you aren't crimped for removal. So if you look at the other 2 color combinations, if you're like, does Grixis have better removal than Dimir or better removal than Rakdos? I don't actually think the answer is yes. I think the answer is that you get a better coverage because blue is going to, if on top of Rakdos, blue gives you the ability to hit non-land permanents and bounce them or to get rid of them with other effects. If you're playing Dimir, then what red gives you is like direct damage, like bolt, galvanic blast type stuff. But that's kind of it. I think 2 colors, when you have black in there or red, is like plenty. So I'm not necessarily certain that 3 colors is like a huge advantage unless there's something that 3 colors is giving you that's really big. Like maybe the pingers. Maybe you play like a curiosity control kind of a thing too with the 5-color, because then you do get... actually, that is kind of interesting. Let me show you all a card that you might not be familiar with. Helm of the Ghast Lord is actually another curiosity effect. Whenever it deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. And then whenever it deals damage to an opponent, discard a card. But it has to be the pinger. Oh, the pinger has to be blue. Nah. Never mind. It was fun while it lasted. It's a fun thought. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah, I don't know that you necessarily get anything more with 3 colors, but I think 5-color makes it really hard to find your colors. I actually, I don't want to spill the beans too much on this, but I will show you all, since you're here. 5 colors is actually really easy. Like the artifacts are so good. And then the artifacts work with cranial plating and all sorts of other stuff. Like artifact ramp is just so nasty in this format. It's really good. This is the deck. Let's see, 10 days ago. Yeah. This is a 5-color deck. We get to play Crop Rotation, Creeper Vine. It basically has Basilisk Gate, and then I don't have it in here currently, but it's supposed to be in here, and that's cranial plating. So you have cranial plating and Basilisk Gate, and then you just have like a zillion ramp. And then you just play all the initiative and all the monarch. You just have like a ton of creatures that like generate value and run you through. And then basically in the command zone, you have this pairing of Sphinx of the Guild Pact with Basilisk Gate or cranial plating, or Sphinx of the Guild Pact with Rush of Knowledge to just draw 7 cards. And like your win condition can be Sphinx, or it can just be like all the initiative stuff you've got. Now I'm not going to linger on this one too much because I want to do a video on that one, and we'll save that for another time. But basically, like 5 color is not that hard. The artifact ramp is really good and highly synergistic. Then you get to play stuff like Thoughtcast and Galvanic Blast and, you know, maybe even like Final Flourish type stuff. But anyways, getting back to this, the last things we were going to put in here, we added Alexi's Cloak, and then the last one was Last Thoughts. Are there any draw spells here that we're actually happy to get rid of? Douglas Wilson says that actually looked awesome. Excited for that one. Yeah, that's one that we're going to be, that Derek and I are going to do at some point. And I've already kind of built it, but we're going to revisit it with some of the other effects. It might be a bit of a meme. I'm not sure. But like Venture, if you're playing Venture and your whole deck is focused around initiative, then not only are like the other dungeons still fine to play, but like initiative, like going really hard on initiative, has tended to be really good. So like just 5 color dungeon master, you know, just like I do dungeon shit. And of course the cool thing is that when you run through the initiative and you go through the forge, well, if you forge up Sphinx of the guild pact, it's a 7/7, you know, it's a big creature. So anyways, okay. Let's look and see, because I would really like to find a slot for Last Thoughts. This card is starting to look really good to me. Just the ability to passively generate birds every turn while also drawing removal onto your 1/1s is like pretty funny to me. Yeah, 5 color affinity, baby. Hey, Lion's Eye Diamond wasn't a meme right up until it wasn't. That's a good point. Yeah, Lion's Eye Diamond was like dog tier, like super, super trash until people figured out that you could pair it with the it's the wheel effect that you can flash back from your graveyard for 3. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I watched so much Legacy. I'm ashamed. There's no function wheel? No. Oh, wait. I did O function. I'm a goofball. Function wheel. Yeah, Echo of Eons. Yeah. Okay, this one. Yeah, I mean, totally. So, but yeah, Last Thoughts just seems really good here. I just don't know what to cut. It could be... Was there any other casualty stuff that we should be thinking about? No. I need to go look at TPI really quick. I think there is something in here that I feel like I'm missing right now. There is Nurok Stealth Suit. Yeah, Alex Scott is used in draft. I mean, it's used in so many things in Legacy. It's such a busted card. It's like the whole like Dredge Vine stuff is awesome. Nurok Stealth Suit's pretty cool because you can actually like flip it onto your birds to stop like an Echoing Truth, and it's just a counter spell for your stuff. Yeah, I don't think I'm missing anything here. Oh, Psychic Impetus. Yeah. Wow. Chat, here's the thing. I keep wanting to put this in decks, and I can't find space for it. I want to put these goat effects in like every deck because they're so strong. They read like that creature never attacks you again. It attacks your opponents every turn. It's bigger, and it gives you repeat value. And if your opponent doesn't like that, they have to kill your opponent's creature to do it, which is like a 2-card exchange. Your opponent loses a card, and the creature loses a card for your 1. It's just nuts. Absolutely nuts. It's like, I don't know why I can't find space for him. We're going to put Psychic Impetus in Murmuring Mystic. We're going to do it right now. Yeah, this is silly. It's just so good. Main deck. Straight to the main deck. We're not fucking around. All right. Take us back. Where is it? Psychic Impetus, removal. This is basically going to be our third copy of Deep Freeze or Stasis Field Witness Protection. The only question is what comes out. Damn. It's kind of like Flood. It's kind of like Flood. Yeah, fuck. Really don't want to cut Flood, though. Maybe Afara's Dispersal. Afara's Dispersal is very cheap. It doesn't hit. So neither of these are going to easily hit combo cards. Both of them are for... Yeah, we're going to put Psychic Impetus in because they're actually... Psychic Impetus is going to scry 2 anyways. This Surveils 2. Yeah, we'll cut Afara's Dispersal. Psychic Impetus. It's not going to make birds, but that's okay. Yeah, Psychic Impetus is nuts. Very, very nuts. Cool. So long-term, Last Thoughts is really interesting to me. I wish there were like a draw spell in here that I wanted to cut. Perilous Research might be it, but Perilous Research generally is pretty good. You like put a bird in front of something and you block, and then you Perilous Research. It's like 2 mana draw 2, makes a bird. But I think we're at a great stopping point here. This is looking exactly better in the ways that I was hoping to improve it. And it really goes to show that even, like that all these, that you can take these older decks that maybe you haven't seen for a long time, and you can always make improvements to them. And we've had a lot of really good cards that we've gotten recently. So, yeah. So with that, let's take a quick look here. Yeah, I think with that, we're gonna wrap it up. So I just want to thank all of you for coming and hanging out once again. It's always great. I really enjoy doing live streams with you all in chat, especially, the folks who are coming in regulars. It's nice. It feels very validating to see that people always want to see what we're doing here. So if you enjoyed the video, of course, make sure to leave a like before you go. If you've got any feedback for us, make sure to DM me or leave a comment in the comment section. If you aren't subscribed already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and the bell icon is a great way to know when people like myself or Clay are going live to play some games. I know Clay was live this weekend, and that's a great way to get notified on non-scheduled content. Alex says, happy to be here. Douglas says, thanks for the build. Of course, yeah, it's my pleasure. And we're going to have another one on Friday. Keep your eyes peeled. We have something very special coming up soon here from a CEDH content maker of great respect and repute, somebody who makes content that I really look up to, who would like to do some CPDH content. So it's going to be a really cool one. We're going to be diving into some territory that I have been eager to explore for some time now with similar to this. It's a deck that we all know and love. It's going to be commanders that you all know and love, but a very different approach using the same mechanics. So Alex says, ooh, let me guess. Yeah, you can guess all you want, but I'm not going to tell you early. However, if you are a patron, you will know early about this sort of stuff. So if you aren't a patron yet, I recommend you go check it out. It's patreon.com/common connoisseurs, where we have tiers at $2, $5, $10, $20, and $50, depending on what you're able to afford. And all of them grant you access to the exclusive members-only section of the Connoisseurs, the Common Connoisseurs Discord channel, which is approaching 600 people right now, which is kind of boggles my mind. But yeah, it's a great place to do that. Other things I want to mention too, because we have your ears here. If you don't know about it already, if you don't know, now you know, because what's coming up is an event this weekend hosted by patron Bobby, also known as B Fine on Discord, who is running the Sanctuary PDH CPDH tournament, which is going to be, I believe, let me see if I can find the event information here, announcements. Let's see. I want to take a look and see if I can find the details on this. Maybe we can find it on Twitter. That might be the best way to do it. Nope. Okay, it's on featured content here. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Gotta find the... find the post for it because I want to show you all. I want to make sure you all have an opportunity to get in on this goodness. Yeah, here it is. Good, good. All right, chat. Here it is, free entrance to this Sanctuary Open Series CPDH tournament. If I'm not participating, I'll be commentating. If I'm not commentating, I'll be participating. I haven't actually had a chance to discuss any of that with BFine yet, but this is going to be a really cool event. It's happening May 13th, which is coming up this weekend. So May 13th is Saturday. You need to get your webcams checked by Friday, so do that as soon as possible. It will be comp REL, so keep that in mind. Get your practice in, get your stuff smooth. It is, I believe, 90-minute rounds. If I can check that really quick, let's see. It's probably about 90-minute rounds. It'll be either that or close to it. Deck lists will be submitted via Command Tower. We've got some rules here that we can follow. We got first place is going to be Inked Gaming gift card. Bunch of cool stuff here. And I know Chris from One More Games MTG has been a big part of helping secure some of these prizes for the winners and the participants. So proxies are friendly, but you need to, of course, show all the text on the card and have it be full color. It needs to be printed out. And it'll be no use of online playtest platforms. So no Moxfield playtest. This will all be webcam based. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, make sure you can reach out to me, and then I'll direct you to Bobby or to BFine. But if not, you can just reach out to him. There's also a Discord channel, so let me show you all that. This Discord channel right here is where you can do your webcam checks and get announcements about the event. So yeah, make sure to go sign up for that. It's going to be a really good time. I think it's definitely really cool to see more of these events hitting the pavement here around CPDH. It's also the let's see, coming up here is the event in Michigan, which is RIW Hobbies, PDH, Pauper Commander. Let's see what comes up here. Pauper Commander events. Got to go find the events here. This is another event that you should definitely be looking into. This is on June. Is this one of those ones where I've got to go look for the Twitter post again? I think I do. RW Hobbies. It is in June on, oh no, it's cut off. It is June 24th. So June 24th is the event. So let's go find it here. June 24th. This is June. So it looks like they maybe don't have it listed on their calendar right now, but it's probably listed on their homepage or something like that. But basically, the event is a Pauper Commander 1K, and it's going to have $1,000 in cash prizes, which is going to be insane. They are located in Michigan, and it's going to be awesome. There's going to be a lot of prominent members of the Pauper Commander community, and you're probably going to meet a bunch of people that you've seen online, which is going to be awesome for you. So definitely make sure to go check that out. Here it is, RIW Hobbies. They also have like a lot of really, really cool people. I know Brian DeMars is likely to be there. One of the all-time, competitive greats for Magic, and that's where they like to hang out. So, anyways, with all that said, I know this has been a little extension on the closing of the stream, but just wanted to share a couple of events with you that I think you're going to enjoy. It's going to be this week on the 13th, and then June 24th. Yeah, Alex says I could buy so many Pauper decks with 1K. Yeah, the way I like to look at it is that if you were to win $1,000, you buy $250 to $500 worth of Pauper Commander cards, and then you pocket the rest. And then you laugh at the person spending hundreds of dollars on upgrading their CPDH deck or the CEDH deck. Or you buy fancy cards for your Pauper Commander deck, which is always always a reasonable and rational thing to do. In fact, I kind of want to flex some of my recent acquisitions here with my Third Path Iconoclast deck. I've gotten to be buying some fancy stuff for this one. We got the recently secured a foil intervene, which is fucking gorgeous. Not cheap, but I had to do it. Had the foil Japanese Keep Watch, which is very spicy, from Judgment, which is one of the sets I started playing in. We got the foil Rebecca Guai Boomerang, which is the best boomerang. It's really pretty. I know it's not focused right now that well, but... Oh, this one's really fun. I know some people are going to be like really polarized on this, but this preordain. And I didn't get the foil one for a reason, because they're Pringles, and I think it's fine. It looks cool. I like it. And the Path of Ancestry is really exciting to me. This is a really cool, this is from the Black is Beautiful set, which is one of my favorite supplemental products that they've ever made. I actually have multiple cards from that, including the Ponder, which is one of the better, it's like the best Ponder I think that's ever been printed by a long shot. I just love the flavor of it, the cultural significance, the way that they tied in the original art to the new art, and the tagline, which is really cool. It says, "Will the future be brighter?" asked the girl. Riel smiled. "I will teach you how to make it so." That's some shit right there. I love it. Dude, Firebrand Archer in foil was nuts. This card is so expensive. But I did really well on pre-release. So I did it all with credit. I had like a Ren the Realm Breaker, and some other stuff that I sold back, and so it was all with credit. But Alex says, "I bought an LED for my LGS 2 weeks ago. I've been ogling it ever since. I really got a good deal, though. I really like the full art artifact lands. I'd buy a playset of those." Damn, dude. Yeah, the playset of the artifact lands. I should get those too. You know, I've been sleeping on that. I bought the artifact lands. I know Clay has those, and I've been very moist for them. But I got the artifact lands from Bro, from the Bro supplemental set, which are pretty cool looking. I like them a lot. They're cheap too. That's the other thing. So yeah, I got Silver Bluff Bridge, we got Darksteel Citadel, Seat of the Synod, and then where's the Great Furnace? Wait, where's Great Furnace? Do I not have Great Furnace? No. That can't be. Great Furnace, there it is. Getting those in some like non-foil full art would be pretty cool. But yeah, I got the Bro artifact lands, and I like those ones too. I think that these two are okay, but these two in particular look great. I like the art on them. It's like cool. It's like these 3 dog mouths just vomiting molten lead or something, or steel into a vat. I think they're cool. The Secret Lair ones are pretty sick too, though. So, but yeah, okay. So with that, now that I've done some flexing here, my shiny cards, which I usually don't do, but get these put away. With that, I hope to see you all on the 13th at the CPDH Sanctuary Open. I hope you all go to the RIW Hobbies event in Michigan. Get that on your calendar. And I hope to see you at the next live stream. I'm going to be populating the calendar here with some next live streams coming up. And we've got some fun stuff for sure. So keep your eyes peeled for that particular content creator we're going to be bringing on. It's going to be really fun. And with that, just want to thank you all for being here. Appreciate your time and attention, and for participating in the live stream. So, connoisseurs of fine common cardboard, wherever you are, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and we'll see you on the battlefield. Peace.